Okay, so back for round two. It's the afternoon, you know. Let's see what we got going on here. I'm gonna try to set this in a way where you can see my pretty beautiful face all the freaking time. I know how much you guys wants to do that. Alright, so we got into a few things this morning, but really I got a subject I've been wanting to talk about for a little while now, and it's the issue of these contrails / chemtrails. Now, if you go online and you type in either one, you're gonna get people who go, well, contrails have been around forever, and you know, they're a product of the engines and exhaust and water vapor and the upper atmosphere where these planes are flying. And that's great, and I always accepted that explanation as a youth, but there are a couple of things about it that don't seem to add up, and the first one is that I do remember seeing them a lot as a kid, but I do remember seeing the trails disappearing. They don't do that anymore, and so that is a little odd that they just stick around all day. The other option is to say, well, you know, the climate's changing, you know, we've been through this, and when I was a kid, you know, 10, 20, 25 years ago that I can remember, anyway, you know, it's, maybe the atmosphere's changed in some way, you know, maybe it's just because of global warming, cooling, whatever the fuck is going on, climate change. Alright, so, that's one good way to go about it, alright? I could say that, you know, I try not to jump to zebras. But, you know, when you try to look up stuff like soil samples, so if we got all these fine particulates in the air in there, and if you watch any of the conspiracy stuff about chemtrails, they say they're trying to do this to change the weather patterns, you know, and these heavy metals are aerosol or dispersed into the atmosphere, and they cause clouds to separate. Well, everything eventually falls, right? Even if it's dispersed. So these aluminums and whatever the hell else, whatever the hell, like a bariums maybe? I don't know. Whatever the hell else is in it, you could find this in the soil. So, and the fact that it's aerosol pretty much means that it would disperse itself evenly, or at least semi-evenly throughout the atmosphere. Maybe, you know, I don't know if it would go all the way to the poles or whatever, but at least it would disperse across where it's in the localized places where it's being sprayed. So what are we seeing in the soils? I don't get to see a lot of soil sample results, and I'd like to see them. I would challenge anyone who has access to a spectrometer, a mass spectrometer, to kind of take some soil samples around their area and see if they can find any anomalies from some soil samples that were taken years ago. You know, if you can compare a sample from, you know, 19 whatever, 80 something, compare that to a sample from 2016 and see what differences you have, and if it's something that should make sense according to what's in the environment. I don't see anyone doing that. Granted, most people in this country and around the world, you know, don't do shit unless there's money involved, and I guess there's no money involved in just testing stuff out. But somebody in education, you know, somebody at a university should take the time to figure it out. You know, they've got access to the equipment, and they're not worried necessarily about making money. I'm not saying that they don't have grants to work on and stuff like that, but they could get some mass spectrometer time and learn how to use it. And oh, by the way, I'm testing the soil in my backyard, you know, and or I'm testing soil in a place where I found a soil sample from a long time ago. I want to go back and retest that soil now and see what the differences are. Even if it's not from that long ago, say it's one from the 90s, where the chemtrail sources of information online are saying, yeah, this is where it kind of started, you know, in the 90s. So what, has there been an elevation? Has there been a change in the amount of the aluminums or whatever? Are we seeing, I don't know, like, it's gotten to the point where I think there's no real good way to tell what's a loopy-doopy conspiracy nonsense and what's a what's a potential serious thing? Because if there really is a lot of crazy stuff going on in the background, which people are fucking greedy, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of background noise going on, I think there's also a lot of noise that's they're just throwing out there just to throw people off the trail. I mean, if I were some kind of criminal and whatever, I'd make it look like someone else was doing the crime, right? Or commit other smaller crimes to throw them off the trail of the main one I'm committing. Maybe they haven't figured it out yet or something. I don't know. I'm just saying it certainly stands to reason that somebody trying to screw everybody out of money would throw you off the trail of where they're screwing you out of money from. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fucking smart person necessarily all the time, but I could definitely see how that could work. That's the thing I don't get. When I try to bring it up to people, and I try to say, hey, why don't you ever question anything that happens around you? They almost get offended and upset, and it's like, well, don't get upset. I mean, if I came up and told you, hey, I got $1 million, wouldn't you ask me to prove it? Wouldn't you say, you don't got $1 million? Or, show me something. You have anything nice? Show you have anything better than that Timex you're wearing? I don't really think you have $1 million. Yeah, well, my word, I just said I did. It seems like, why just because something comes from a specific source, is it okay to say, fuck it, I'll believe that just because it's from that source? I mean, I guess you got to draw the line somewhere, but you're crossing over into the basis of reality. Yeah, you have to accept that the sky is blue. If you're colorblind, you just kind of got to accept that fact. You can't prove it. You just got to be like, well, the only way I can prove it is to say a lot more other people say so. But you can't do that with a lot of the stuff that happens in the news, just because a lot of other people are going to say it. But that's only because they're getting their information from the same jackass source. That doesn't necessarily prove anything. And I also don't really understand the anger when you try to get people to question anything. Just anything. I don't have time for that. I think they get this overwhelming, maybe at some point in their life they've thought, maybe I should question that. But they shove it back down all the time. They go, I don't have time for this. I got bills to pay. I gotta make money. Oh, it's just so hard. I just got another bill in the mail. I don't know how I'm gonna pay it, and it's outside of my monthly budget, and blah, 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 until finally they're just like, fuck it. And they just don't want to even think of it. They have too much going on to think about that. Well, wouldn't you think that's kind of part of the plan? Keep everyone too busy so they don't question shit? I mean, I don't know about you, but it surely does seem like people don't have time to go vote in things that matter, like their local elections, or to find anything out about who their district judges and stuff are going to be, and you don't get to even really know who the fuck your mayor's going to be. You just kind of just check a box right along party lines. Okay. I hope they're doing what the rest of them are doing, but even then, I hope they're not, because they're all a bunch of crooked assholes. We're still dealing with a system that was made in a time before there was any way to have any serious oversight, and even the oversight that they did plan into our system, they fucking loopholed their asses right on around it, and this is bullshit. And so a little bit, that's the part where I start to understand that it's not a conspiracy against everyone when they get upset when I ask them to question something. This is the part where I understand, this is how it's our collective fault. Because collectively we've decided not to question shit. So collectively, other people are making our decisions for us. Tough shit, tough titties if you don't like it. But as long as we live in a majority rule system, and the majority of the people have decided that they don't want to question anything, as an individual, there's very little I can do about that. And so I feel disenfranchised, and I feel like there's nothing I can do anyway. And so I think that's where people who are otherwise reasonable get that frustration. They don't know, like, where to start and where to stop when it comes to questioning things. So like, well, where does it stop? Do I have to question every time someone says the sky's blue? No, you don't, asshole. But you do need to question when someone says that they have your interest at heart, when you know that they don't. or when they're really fucking rich. Why would they have your interest at heart when they're already rich? They don't. They have their interest at heart, which is how they got rich. And they're not going to stay rich by worrying about your issues and problems that are in your, what they consider to be small, infinitesimal, I don't know how to say that word, infinitesimal existence compared to theirs, with their furrowed eyebrows and their worry about their money, and it must be, it's like, this isn't real, I've wasted all my time, and I've thrown people under the bus, and I hate everyone, and everyone's a bunch of assholes, but I've stepped on everyone could have ever possibly loved me in order to get more money, because I've got to have all the money, and I've got to have all of it and all the control, not just the money, because the money's not enough anymore. Now I want to control everything, and I want to control what people think, and what they say, and how they live, and what they do, and how they shit. And that's the part I've never understood about these rich elitist fuck types, you know, like, what? You know how boring it is? They fucking made the place boring. This place used to be so exciting. America used to be awesome. No, it didn't. America was a racist pile of shit. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Not America was awesome. I mean, the world was more awesome. Because really what's happened is the world has kind of turned into this, you can't escape from anything. You're always being whatever. I don't fucking know what I'm saying anymore. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and drop it. Because I think I pretty much got out everything I want to say about that. See you next time.